All right, so I'm going to make a video that discusses this millennials in the workplace video that we watched today, just for students to have a little bit of a reference of what we discussed in class. If you weren't able to make it, here's our introductory to this Riverstones assignment. So I'm going to pause this real quick and pull up the Riverstones essay prompt. All right, share screen. So here's our composition bright space page, and I'll do Blackboard also. So when I go to content, under content, you'll see essay and assignment prompts. So again, going to Riverstones, essay to Riverstones. And I understand Riverstones is 2 words, but I kind of like it as one. I think it's prettier, but anyway, you know, I just make my own rules as I go. All right, so here's our Riverstones essay prompt. Riverstones are jagged rocks smoothed down by waves of water. We are much the same, and this essay helps us relate them with 3 criteria. We want to reflect on the idea that obstacles define us. We want to extend from that essay 1, that values and morals essay, where we talked about our values that we acquired growing up and whatnot. And then my glasses drive me crazy because I always reflect. But anyway, all right. And then we want to incorporate at least 1 source, right? So I'm going to help us do just that. And anyway, it goes worse over there. Well, I just have a reflection on my glasses. Sorry. So we're going to incorporate at least 1 source, right? So we narrowed down our most valued morals sought through growing up. Now we want to reflect on milestones and cornerstones we face as adults while analyzing stereotypes and labels we confront when approaching them. All right, this is supposed to say, expository is supposed to say argument. I want us to write an argument essay discussing how your most valued moral affects your decision-making process when faced with stereotypes and labels amidst milestones and cornerstones that you will confront, right? So some of these milestones and cornerstones that we confront are right here. I mean, the list really doesn't have an end. Our first day of college, moving out, having a baby, our 21st birthday, our 18th birthday, getting a job, budgeting, cooking, falling in love, our first real broken heart, providing for our family, substance abuse. I mean, the list really has no end. So what are some of the things that we have focused or that we have faced or that we will face growing up that we really care about, right? So we want to write about what do we care about? And so I have some writing tips and some prompts, like go for a hike or a bike ride, sit at a table at a lake with pen and paper in a hand. I used to do that all the time. Go camping one night with just you and your notebook. What stereotypes come with your ethnicity, social status, gender, age? What labels have you worn and why? How do these labels and stereotypes show up in my actions, in my decision makings? How do I want to be remembered? And does this essay reflect that, right? So there's some criteria. We want to create a dynamic thesis that engages and challenges readers and support that thesis with body paragraphs. So we'll do that in class. We do these criteria in class. We want to stray from random quoting by making sources connect and flow among your ideas. We want to reach a conclusion based on higher level critical thinking abilities using Bloom's pyramid. That's one thing we practiced last time, but we're going to do even more this time. We want to use appropriate tone and language for our target audience, and of course, a proper in-text citation with the correct works cited page. So I just want to discuss what we talked about the very first week of stage 2, this very first week of Riverstones, right? So we watched a video. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. We watched a video today called Millennials in the Workplace. And if you were in class today, this is just a recap of what we discussed, right? But also, you know, my 8 a.m. class, they don't really get the discussion that, you know, by the time I get to my 10 a.m. class, we've had a lot more discussions. We've had a lot more talks. And so you might want to just take a moment to watch this video just to let's see, where are we at? I'm not sure just yet. Now I'll take a minute to watch this video to see. There we go. Sorry about that. You might want to take a moment to watch the video to kind of catch up on what we talked about in one class. I didn't quite make it to, and I haven't even made it to my Tuesday, Thursday class yet before I made this video. So I might add some more into the comments or whatnot tomorrow by the time we talk with the other video. So I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to go through this Simon Sinek, this Millennials in the Workplace It also has a lot to do with Gen Z too. But anyway, this millennials in the workplace. I know my video is getting a little bit old. It's from 2016, so I need to find a newer, better video. But anyway, so we're going to talk about this video. I'm going to pause it a few times to kind of talk about our classroom discussion.
Apparently, millennials is a generation, which is a group of people who were born approximately.
Turn the subtitles on. Hold on. There we go. I'm going to turn the closed caption on here.
What's the millennium question? Apparently, millennials as a generation, which is a group of people who were born approximately 1984 and after, are tough to manage. And they're accused of being entitled and narcissistic, self-interested, unfocused, lazy. But entitled is the big one. And
all right, so we're talking about stereotypes and labels and other ideas like that. They go along with our age, our gender, our ethnicity. And if you've never encountered this entitled stereotype, I promise you that it's definitely out there, that we are called the entitled generation, that we are the ones who expect with a handout, right? We are entitled to this and entitled to that. So that's just something our generation, my generation, beginning with millennials and up, that's what we face. That's one of the things that we face. But I also think there's some good things that come out of that, and I want to talk about that a little bit in this video. I also want you to remember that if you don't understand everything that he's saying, that's okay. If you don't pull a big argument from, that's okay. I just want to break down small ideas and help us to go in a specific direction, right? I just want to get us to go in a general direction here. So if you pull something small out of this and you want to go this way or that way, that's all that I want, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit more too.
And because they confound leadership so much, what's happening is leaders are asking the millennials, what do you want? And millennials are saying, we want to work in a place with purpose, love that. We want to make an impact, whatever that means. We want free food and beanbags.
Okay, so it might be kind of silly what he's saying here, but there's a little bit of truth to this in that, my husband is 7 years older than I am. And his idea of job satisfaction is to earn a paycheck and provide for his family. That's a lot of older generations' idea of job satisfaction, is to have a good work ethic, earn their paycheck, and to provide for their families, right? That's not at all my idea of job satisfaction. My idea of job satisfaction is to make an impact, is to to walk away knowing that my life is valuable, that I am a valued person in my job and whatnot. So think about that. If there's an argument to be had there, what is this argument of this? I call the diamond from the coal, and the coal here that we're talking about is this idea that from failed parenting strategies and from this entitled label, the diamond that came out of that is that we want to make an impact. We're going to, the next essay after this one that we're going to talk about our again, everything is not linear, it's lateral. But anyway, we talked a little bit about that. I'll talk a little bit about that here later on. But if you look at advertisements from 25 years ago, they're completely different than, we have a lot of advertisements today that's pushing us to use less plastic, pushing us to dress better, pushing us to just be more responsible than we did before. And I think it's because of this idea that millennials and Gen Z and above, we want to make the impact. We want to have that value, right? And this free food and bean bags, just talk about this hipster style of culture, right? That, if you look around my office, I do like for it to look a little bit hipper, right? I might not actually have a bean bag, but I do bring food to classes. I like to, before COVID hit, I would feed my students. I bring homemade cinnamon rolls and things like that and say, hey, let's all be friends as we get together and talk about these ideas, right? That's not really I mean, that's pretty new, right? So let's keep on going.
And so somebody articulates some sort of purpose. There's lots of free food and there's bean bags, and yet for some reason they're still not happy. And that's because they're missing. There's a missing piece. What I've learned is that I can break it down into 4 pieces. Right? There are four things, 4 characteristics. One is parenting. The other one is technology. The third is impatience, and the fourth is environment. The generation that we call the millennials, too many of them grew up subject to, not my words, failed parenting strategies. You know, where, for example, they were told that they were special all the time. They were told that they could have anything they want in life just because they want it. Right? They were told. Some of them got into honors classes not because they deserved it, but because their parents complained. And some of them got A's not because they earned them, but because the teachers didn't want to deal with the parents. Some kids got participation medals. They got a medal for coming in last, right? Which the science we know is pretty clear, which is it devalues the medal and the reward for those who actually work hard, and then actually makes the person who comes in last feel embarrassed because they know they didn't deserve it. So it actually makes them feel worse, right? So you take this group of people and they graduate school and they get a job and they're thrust into the real world, and in an instant they find out they're not special. Their moms can't get them a promotion. That you get nothing for coming in last. And by the way, you can't just have it because you want it, right? And in an instant, their entire self-image is shattered. And so you have an entire generation that's growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations.
I actually dealt with this a lot as an assistant manager at the grocery store. We have a lot of cashiers and baggers who truly did feel like the schedule should go their way, should work around their own ideals, their own, their own personal agendas. And that's that feeling of entitlement. Whenever we step onto that first job, I'm entitled to my life outside of job. And we need to find some kind of a balance. But at the same time, we also need to realize that, we are stepping into a different role. We're putting on a different label, right? That different label now is adult, is cashier, bagger, whatever it is, face of a store. And we can't always, go around everyone's entitlement. And so really focused in, I really hit that hard whenever I was an assistant manager of the grocery store, constantly having to fill in for other cashiers and baggers. So if you think, oh, that's not me, when was the last time that you called in at work because something better came up, right? Called into work because something different was, you're going to miss out on something in life, right? That's that idea of entitlement. I've done it too, had a concert to go in, so I called in sick, right? That's that idea of entitlement that we didn't really see as much with past generations.
The other problem to compound it is we're growing up in a Facebook, Instagram world. In other words, we're good at putting filters on things. We're good at showing people that life is amazing, even though I'm depressed, right? And so everybody sounds tough and everybody sounds like they got it all figured out. And the reality is there's very little toughness and most people don't have it figured out. And so when the more senior people say, well, what should we do? They sound like, this is what you got to do. And they have no clue. Right? So you have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations, right? Through no fault of their own, right? They were dealt a bad hand, right? Now let's add in technology. We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That's why when you get a text, it feels good. Right? So, we've all had it when you're feeling a little bit down or feeling a little lonely. And so you send out.
So you see these pop-ups here. If you want to talk about this idea of social media and dopamine, then use this. In 2012, a study, Harvard research scientists reported that talking about oneself through social media activates the chemical called dopamine. So look up that study. You can use that in your essays, by the way. So use these pop-ups if they're relevant to your own essay.
10 texts to 10 friends, hi. Because it feels good when you get a response, right? Right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we go back 10 times to see if my Instagram is growing slower. Did I do something wrong? Do they not like me anymore, right? The trauma for young kids to be unfriended, right? Because we know when you get it, you get a hit of dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back to it. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive, right? We have age restrictions on smoking, gambling, and alcohol, and we have no age restrictions on social media and cell phones, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing, if it gets you down. But that's basically what's happening. That's basically what's happening, right? That's basically what happened. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress of adolescence. Why is this important? Almost every alcoholic discovered alcohol when they were teenagers. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is the approval of our parents. And as we go through adolescence, we make this transition where we now need the approval of our peers. Very frustrating for our parents, very important for us. It allows us to acculturate outside of our immediate families into the broader tribe, right? It's a highly, highly stressful and anxious period of our lives, and we're supposed to learn to rely on our friends. Some people, quite by accident, discover alcohol and numbing effects of dopamine to help them cope with the stresses and anxieties of adolescence. Unfortunately, that becomes hardwired in their brains, and for the rest of their lives, when they suffer significant stress, they will not turn to a person, they will turn to the bottle. Social stress, financial stress, career stress, that's pretty much the primary reasons why an alcoholic drinks, right? What's happening is because we're allowing unfettered access to these dopamine-producing devices and media, basically it's becoming hardwired, and what we're seeing is as they grow older, too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Their words, not mine. They will admit that many of their friendships are superficial. They will admit that their friends, that they don't count on their friends, they don't rely on their friends, they have fun with their friends, but they also know that their friends will cancel on them if something better comes along.
Right. So I asked students to just to write about this, right? Just to take a moment and take some notes about this idea here. And if you think, oh, no, that's not me, I'm not addicted to, it's not hardwired in my brain to turn to social media when something happens. I just kind of want to ask, and maybe it's not true whatsoever, but I want to ask, when your friends' birthdays come around, do you just post happy birthday on social media, or have you sent a card or, bought a cupcake over to their house? As I was talking about, my mother-in-law passed away the Sunday before class started, which is why we had such a rough start to a really great semester. But we received 2 cards in the mail. and behind me, you see a basket that my work family here got for me, which was very, very nice. But, we didn't receive any meals to the house, and neither did my father-in-law. My father-in-law received a few visitors because he just lost his wife, and a couple things of food. But what I'm saying here is take a moment and reflect. When significant things happen in my life, do I post little prayer hands on social media, or am I do I actively call? Do I actively visit my friends and family's house? And maybe you do, and that'd be great. That's amazing. That's wonderful. But if it's a happy birthday message on social media, maybe we do rely on technology a little bit too much when we should have those deep, meaningful relationships, right? So when someone is sick, do we rely on, let me check on their social media to see if they're getting better? Or do we, visit one's house or make a phone call? So just little ideas like that, and for your journals, for these scrapbooks, I would say if you have a friend's birthday come up, make a cupcake and bring it over to their house and journal about that. I didn't post on social media. I brought this to this person's house, and this was the experience, right? And again, I'm not meaning to be harsh or anything like that. I just want us to reflect on ourselves. I want us to reflect on our motives, our actions, right? Is our motives to be seen on social media, or are our motives to actually wish someone well, to wish someone, good in life? So anyway, let's keep on going. So these deep, meaningful relationships. Have you ever outed on a friend because something better came up, right? Have you ever, been wrapped up in what you're doing and to where you're missing out on these relationships, right? I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so I'm gonna keep on going.
Even if relationships are not there because they've never practiced the skill set, and worse, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to social media, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook, right? These things balance. Alcohol is not bad, too much alcohol is bad. Gambling is fun, too much gambling is dangerous, right? There's nothing wrong with social media and cell phones. It's the imbalance, right? If you're sitting at dinner with your friends and you're texting somebody who's not there, that's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting in a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, face up or face down, I don't care, that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just not that important to me right now, right? That's what happens. And the fact that you cannot put it away is because you are addicted, right? If you wake up and you check your phone before you say good morning to your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, you have an addiction. And like all addiction, in time, it'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it will make your life worse, right? So you have a generation growing up with lower self-esteem that doesn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress, right? Now you add in the sense of impatience, right? They've grown up in a world of instant gratification. You want to buy something, you go on Amazon, it arrives the next day. You want to watch a movie, log on and watch a movie. You don't check movie times. You want to watch a TV show, binge. You don't even have to wait week to week to week, right? I know people who skip seasons just so they can binge at the end of the season, right? Instant gratification. You want to go on a date, you don't even have to learn how to be like, hey. You don't even have to learn and practice that skill. You don't have to be the uncomfortable one who says yes when you mean no and says no when you mean no and yes when you don't have to swipe right. Bang, I'm a stud. Right? You don't have to learn the social coping mechanisms, right? Everything you want, you can have instantaneously. Everything you want, instant gratification, except job satisfaction and strength of relationships. There ain't no after that. They are slow, meandering, uncomfortable, messy processes. And so I keep meeting these wonderful, fantastic, idealistic, hardworking, smart kids. They've just graduated school. They're in their entry-level job. I sit down with them and I go, how's it going? They go, I think I'm going to quit. I'm like, why? They're like, I'm not making an impact. I'm like, you've been here 8 months. It's as if they're standing at the foot of a mountain and they have this abstract concept called impact that they want to have in the world, which is the summit. What they don't see is the mountain. I don't care if you go up the mountain quickly or slowly, but there's still a mountain. And so what this young generation needs to learn is patience. That some things that really, really matter, like love or job fulfillment, joy, love of life, self-confidence, a skill set, any of these things, all of these things take time. Sometimes you can expedite pieces of it, but the overall journey is arduous and long and difficult. And if you don't ask for help and learn that skill set, you will fall off the mountain, or you will, the worst case scenario, and we're already seeing it. The worst case scenario is we're seeing an increase in suicide rates. We're seeing an increase in this generation. We're seeing an increase in accidental deaths due to drug overdoses. We're seeing more and more kids drop out of school or take leaves of absence due to depression. Unheard of. These are all, this is really bad. The best case scenario, those are all bad cases, right? The best case scenario is you'll have an entire population growing up and going through life and just never really finding joy. They'll never really find deep fulfillment in work or in life. They'll just waft through life and it'll be just, it's fine. How's your job? It's fine. The same as yesterday. How's your relationship? It's fine. Like that's the best case scenario, which leads me to the fourth point.
All right. So before he gets into the fourth point, my favorite part of our classroom discussion that came out of these 3 classes was I'm going to work on another example essay. So I like to make my life hard, but anyway, I'm going to work on another example essay that talks about what I have found. I know I went to a graduation party at the end of, in May when students were graduating. Went to an 18-year-old's graduation party, my niece's graduation party, and she, my daughter was there, and she was getting, not my daughter, but my niece was getting all these presents as she was moving into her OU dorm, and she was, and I realized that my daughter really is only 7 months, and I constantly worry. I'm constantly wondering, what should I be doing at the moment? So I'm going to work on, an example essay where my argument is centered around this cliched idea of being in the moment, right? The way to climb the mountain to get to the summit is to be in the moment now. So instead of wondering where I'm going to be as an instructor 10 years from now, I'm going to enjoy my class today, being our discussion today, learn from my students today, not worry about what are they going to teach me for tomorrow, but just enjoy my students today. And whenever I'm home, and my daughter wants to play Barbies, being in the moment then, playing Barbies then. I have a cute little story from her playing Barbies that I'll incorporate into my essay. About, I got her playing pregnant Barbies and she was embarrassed and I thought it was adorable. But anyway, just being in the moment again now. So I took him to the splash pad yesterday and I learned a few things about my son watching him play. And again, just being in that moment and not worrying about, well, have an essay due or have homework due, or, how can we manage our time management so that we're able to grasp life as it happens right now. And that is what gets us up the summit of the mountain, right? And so I'm going to work on that example essay and get that to you instead of the example that I have. And so it might be, Thursday and Friday instead of Wednesday and Thursday that we're looking at the example essay, but I will get one to you because I'm kind of excited to write that kind of essay, right? So, and if you want to take that idea, use that, what you learned about it, as long as you're using specific examples and being specific and having that bigger idea at the end, then you're more than welcome to do that. Or you're more than welcome to just talk about some of the examples here, right? So let's keep on going, but that's the mountain. That's what it reminds me of, is the way to climb the mountain and build those patience, to have those deep, meaningful relationships, is to, put down our social media and be in the moment. So, when a birthday rolls around or a funeral rolls around, how can I be in the moment? How can I live life today and not worry about tomorrow? So let's keep on going.
Which is environment, which is we're taking this amazing group of young, fantastic kids who were just dealt a bad hand. It's no fault of their own. And we put them in corporate environments that care more about the numbers than they do about the kids. They care more about the short-term gains than the long-term life of this young human being. We care more about the year than the lifetime, right? And so we are putting them in corporate environments that aren't helping them build their confidence, that aren't helping them learn the skills of cooperation, that aren't helping them overcome the challenges of a digital world and finding more balance, that isn't helping them overcome the need to have instant gratification and teach them the joys and impact and the fulfillment you get from working hard on something for a long time that cannot be done in a month or even in a year. And so we're thrusting to them in corporate environments, and the worst part about it is they think it's them. They blame themselves. They think it's them who can't deal. And so it makes it all worse. It's not. I'm here to tell them it's not them. It's the corporations. It's the corporate environments. It's the total lack of good leadership in our world today that is making them feel the way they do. They were dealt a bad hand, and I hate to say it, but it's the company's responsibility. It sucks to be you. Like, we have no choice, right?
So another argument that comes out of this, is it the company's responsibility? This is one thing I talked about before. Being an assistant manager at the grocery store, I saw this a lot with cashiers and baggers and whatnot, who are growing that work ethic, who are, coming to work and realizing that they might be replaceable, that their job of checking groceries or bagging groceries isn't this big impactful, this big impact that we want. But, how can we make the impact? What can we do? And so there's an argument there, that while we're at our menial jobs, these smaller jobs, not meaningless, but menial, meaning smaller jobs, what where's that impact? Where is that? Is it with our coworkers? Is it showing work ethic? I mean, that's another argument there. And yet another one is it the jobs? He's talking about bigger corporations, and I'm sure there's more of an argument there. I'm talking about working at McDonald's. I'm talking about working at a grocery store. How can we invest? Is it our job to invest into young employees to get them to build that? Or is it, hey, you're getting paid for a job, you need to have that work ethic whenever you enter, you need to realize you're getting paid for this, right? So there's another argument there that you can kind of play around with. And again, make sure it's things that you care about. Make sure you're discussing ideas that you care about, right? So there's just a lot of ideas presented here in this video that can go this way or that way. And I just want us to use it to help us, go a specific way.
Right? This is what we got. And I wish that society and their parents did a better job. They didn't. So we're getting them in our companies, and we now have to pick up the slack. We have to work extra hard to figure out the ways that we build their confidence. We have to work extra hard to find ways to teach them the social skills that they're missing out on. There should be no cell phones in conference rooms. None. Zero. And I don't mean the kind of like sitting outside waiting to text. I mean, like when you're sitting and waiting for a meeting to start, nobody go, this is what we all do. We all sit here and wait for the meeting to start. Meeting starting? Okay. We start the meeting. No, that's not how relationships are formed. Remember we talked about it's the little things? Relationships are formed this way. We're waiting for a meeting to start and we go, how's your dad? I heard he was in the hospital. Oh, he's really good. Thanks for asking. He's actually at home then. Oh, I'm really glad. That was really amazing. I know, it was really scary for him. That's how you form relationships. Hey, did you ever get that report done? Oh my God, no, I didn't. I'll help you out. I'll help you out with that. Really? That's how trust forms. Trust doesn't form in an event, in a day. Even bad times don't form trust immediately. It's the slow, steady consistency. And we have to create mechanisms where we allow for those little innocuous interactions to happen. But when we allow cell phones in conference rooms, we just, okay, have the meeting. And then my favorite is like when there's a cell phone there, you go like this, you go, it rings and you go, I'm not going to answer that. Mr. Magnanimous, When you're out for dinner with your friends, like I do this with my friends. When we're going out for dinner and we're leaving together, we'll leave our cell phones at home. Who are we calling? Maybe one of us will bring the phone in case we need to call an Uber or take a picture of our meal. Saying, I mean, I'm not. I'm an idealist, but I'm not saying I mean, it looked really good. We'll take one phone. And so it's like an alcoholic. The reason you take the alcohol out of the house is because we cannot trust our willpower. We're just not strong enough. But when you remove the temptation, it actually makes it a lot easier. And so when you just say, don't check your phone, people literally will go like this. And somebody will go to the bathroom, and what's the first thing we do? Because I wouldn't want to look around the restaurant for a minute and a half, But if you don't have the phone, you just kind of enjoy the world. Mm-hmm. And that's where ideas happen. The constant engagement is not where you have innovation and ideas.
This is a huge thing that he's talking about here, this idea of innovation, this idea of distraction, this idea of not being in the moment now. And that's when innovation truly happens. That's why I talk a lot about in our journals. That's why I say, wash the dishes and tell me where your mind goes. When you're folding the laundry, doing basic chores, where do your mind goes? Because that's when innovation happens, right? So allow it to happen. That's a great argument, is allowing innovation to happen, allowing creativity to happen. And we just don't allow that to happen when we are constantly engaged, right? When we are constantly bombarded with social media, cell phones, with we have all of our friends in our back pocket. And that's hard on our innovative skills. That's hard on our thinking capacities. That's just hard on us when we are trying to live in the moment and be who we are meant to be who we are made to be. And so allow innovation to happen. That's a fantastic essay there. As long as we narrow that down, we can talk about, young adults allowing innovation to happen. That's a fantastic essay right there. Right? We can form an argument from that. That's not the argument, but you can take off from there is how, why is it important? As long as I can come back, and argue the opposite, it's an argument. So we can play around with this idea of, allowing innovation to happen. I know something that I missed earlier. Another argument that we pulled out of this was social media is the new birthday card, right? That's another great argument that we were talking about before. Has it replaced the birthday card? Has it replaced the thank you notes, right? So again, we want to find these arguments here and hone in on what we care about.
It does happen when our minds wander and we go, and you see something, if we could do that, that's called innovation, right? But we're taking away all those little moments, right? You should not, and none of us should charge our phones by our beds. We should be charging our phones in the living rooms, right? Remove the temptation. You wake up in the middle of the night because you can't sleep, you won't check your phone, which makes it worse. But if it's in the living room, it's relaxed, it's fine. But it's my alarm clock. Buy an alarm clock. They cost $8. Right?
All right, video's pretty much over. And yeah, I use my phone as an alarm clock, but I've just found other ways. I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing his funny face there. The video is pretty much over, but I use my phone as an alarm clock, but I found other ways to get around being addicted to social media. I found other ways, and truly those other ways of getting around, here's another argument, those other ways of getting around the social media addiction is to form meaningful relationships, right? Is to know the value of a birthday card, the value of knocking on a person's door in a time of trouble and saying, I'm sorry to hear about this. Here's some dinner for tonight, because I know you're going through a hard time. That is how we're going to break our social media addiction, right? So take off with that too. There's plenty of arguments here. That's why I like to make these recap videos, because this is what comes to mind as we're going, right? This is what comes to mind as we're discussing. So anyway, it's 2:00. This is our Riverstones introduction, the introduction to the Riverstones argument here. This is not the end. This is just the introduction. So let's try to form some ideas here, and let's share with each other the ideas that we formed, right? What are some of the arguments that we can form here? So let's work on sharing, what are some of these ideas? So I hope this video helped and wasn't just, incredibly redundant. And I'm going to keep on posting videos because it just helps me to recap, and hopefully it helps you as students to see what we're doing each and every day, right? So it seems like there was something I was supposed to show on Blackboard. I don't remember. If I remember it, I'll bring it up. But anyway, here is that's the Millennials in the Workplace video that we watched today in class, that we will watch tomorrow in class. And here's just an introduction to the new Riverstones essay. So on top of that, on Wednesday and Thursday, we'll be painting Riverstones in the classroom if you want to. If you don't have to, you're not going to do poorly in the class because you didn't feel like painting a rock. But just don't wear your favorite outfit, or if you want to bring a different shirt to change into, this is my brand new sunflower t-shirt. I definitely wouldn't want to get paint on it. And so keep that in mind coming into class. If you want to bring a different shirt or something to cover yourself up with, if you want to paint a rock, remember that. And I'll send out an announcement before I leave today too. So hopefully this video helped. Hopefully this discussion helped. And let's just try to share with each other some of these arguments. I'm going to start writing some of mine down and put them on the announcement, because you're more than welcome to take off with some of my arguments. But I can't wait to see some of your ideas and to start sharing everyone's ideas. So anyway, ending the video. Let me know if you need some help. Let me know if you have any ideas. End.